Buenas, buenas, peace, peace. We're going to do the LJ intro. Vamos a hacer la introducción para justicia de idioma. Hola, mi nombre es Joel y junto con mis compas Adriana, Diana, Judith, Wendelin y Michelle, formamos parte del equipo de justicia del lenguaje para esta conferencia.
Hello, my name is Joel, and together with my compas, Adriana, Diana, Judith, Michelle, y Wendelin, we are part of the Language Justice team for this conference.
El equipo de Nissan se ha comprometido a la justicia del lenguaje y esta porción será bilingüe e interpretada del español al inglés y del inglés al español.
NISOG is committed to language justice, and this portion will be bilingual and interpreted from Spanish to English and English to Spanish.
La función de interpretación ya está activada.
The interpretation function is already activated.
Para acceder a la función desde su computadora, busque el globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla y elija a la interpretación de idiomas. Luego, seleccione su canal de idioma.
To access the function from your computer, please find the globe on the bottom of your screen and choose language interpretation. Then select your language channel.
Para acceder a la función desde su teléfono o tableta, busque los tres puntitos en la parte inferior de la pantalla, toque más y luego interpretación de idiomas y seleccione su idioma y toque finalizar. Este último paso es el que activa la función.
To access the function from your phone or your tablet, please find the three dots on the bottom of your screen and select More. Then select Language Interpretation, select your language channel and click Done. This last step is what activates the function.
Toda persona debe elegir un canal de interpretación a no ser que entiendan ambos idiomas, inglés y español.
Every person here should choose a language channel unless you fully understand English and Spanish.
Si tiene alguna dificultad accediendo a la función de interpretación, por favor, mandarle un mensaje a Shia por el chat y le ayudarán a resolverlo.
If you are having issues with accessing the interpretation function, please send a chat message to Shia and they will support in resolving any issues.
Ahora vamos a probar si el canal del inglés está funcionando. Now we are seeing if the English channel is working.
Hello, hello. If you can hear me in English, please show thumbs up. Beautiful.
Si el canal de...
Now we're going to see if the Spanish channel is working.
Probando, probando. Genial. Crear estos espacios
Creating multilingual spaces is a collective effort, and it's even more important in agricultural spaces where we know that the majority of the people that sustain our food system speak multiple languages. We invite you to write down in the chat all of the languages that are present here in this space, that way name, honor, recognize that our communities are multilingual. These are some of the ways that we all can support the commitment to language justice throughout this meeting. Please say your name before speaking, because people who are listening to the interpretation don't always know when the speaker has changed. Also, you can see in the chat that your comments are going to be translated live by our compas Diana and Judith. If you can, please make your comment both in English and in Spanish so that we can all access it with more ease. But if not, please make your comments in the language that you prefer, and make sure that you can that you add your pronouns in your name. Also, please remember to reselect your language channel if you come back from breakout groups. Every so often, also, we will need to communicate with the person speaking. To not interrupt the meeting, we're going to use different signals with our hands. For example, please speak slower. Please speak louder. One mic. And please pause or breathe. Finally, for the people who are listening to us in the interpretation channel, you will notice that we end some of the words in E when we refer to a person instead of the traditional A or O. This is not an error in pronouncing. Rather, it is a deliberate decision to resist the gender binary and to build gender inclusivity. If you have any issues with interpretation, please let us know immediately. Send a message through the chat. And thank you for your commitment to language justice.
Thank you so much, Adriana and Joelle. And welcome everyone to the closing plenary of the 2021 NISAG conference. It's been a very full 4 days, a very exhausting 4 days, but I hope you have all been enjoying the wisdom from our amazing presenters. And I hope that to the extent that an online conference allows, you've been able to make some new connections with folks. Before we begin, I wanted to give you an opportunity to meet the NISAG team. I'd like to start by recognizing our phenomenal board members. And Shia, if you could pin folks now, that would be great. And if you are a NISAG board member and are not on camera, I invite you to come on camera. We have our co-chairs, Sis Anna Muhammad from Springfield, Massachusetts, and Lindsay Gilmore in Philadelphia. Co-secretaries Noelle Warford and in Philly and Kelsey Watson in Washington, D.C. Our treasurer, Becca Williams from Naples, New York, or from Buffalo, living in Naples, New York. And board members Raqui Bay in Pittsburgh, Ulum Pixon in Grafton, Massachusetts, Karen Spiller in Boston, and Diana Robinson in Philly. Our board has been leading NISAG through a transformation to center equity and liberatory practices in our programs and operations this past year. And while we're a little too early in that work to share it out with the community, I hope as we move through it and gain some wisdom and hindsight that we'll share more with you in the coming months and years. I also want to introduce you to the small but mighty team of staff here at NISAG, the folks who make the programs happen. Nicole Sugarman, our policy manager, who you met at the Farm Bill listening session earlier this week. Nicole brings deep integrity and commitment to equity in her work to ensure that our network participants are able to take informed action on policies impacting our farm and food system. Of course, you've met Malaika Gilpin, our conference manager, and Malaika has made the conference not just a place for networking and collaboration, but also one of generative creativity and beauty. Malaika also is the mother of our Sankofa monthly webinar series, where she has curated a lineup of some of our favorite presenters from previous NISAG conferences. And you can see all of those online at our website. And finally, last but not least, Shia Rogovin, our program assistant and hero of this year's conference, who in addition to handling basically every logistical component of the conference, also created the graphics for the conference and our Sankofa series, curated the youth track, puts together our monthly newsletter, and manages all of our social media accounts. And I will now turn it over to Shia and Malika, who want to say a few thank yous of their own. And now I have to find you to pin you.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you, board and staff. Thank you for everybody for joining. I have a quick thank yous of my own. I will try to keep it brief because I know we have a very full program planned. But if you're someone like me, I like to do everything myself. And I quickly learned that with a virtual conference, that is just not physically possible. So my first thank you is to our conference tech crew. We have Onika, we have Allison with 1 L and Allison with 2 L's, and Alina, Ava, Thea, Trixie, Francesca, and Leslie. Many of these folks are on the CPC, so they're working double duty. They're helping plan the conference and they're helping run it. This crew came together kind of last minute, but was literally running the show. And so I want to thank each of you for all you did and all you were doing and for holding it down. Next, I want to shout out to the language justice team. This crew is amazing. Y'all led the work just with such intentions and such grace, and we're totally present for this whole thing, and I am so appreciative. Y'all been supporting NISOG and the larger conference in a process and practice that was new for probably most of us here. And y'all were just there every step of the way to support that and turned a task that was very daunting for me into just a better experience overall. So we have Catalina, Rosie, Vita, Adriana, Joelle, Veronica, Judith, Diana, Yaya, Alum. Y'all are so fun to work with. You have taught me so much. I thank you. Thank you to Jack and Leslie from Farsan Northeast. That's the Food and Agriculture Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. Farsan, they provided funding to make this language justice work possible. So thank you to them. And I got to shout out, special shout out, Michelle and Wendelin. Y'all have been a rock. They've been spearheading this language justice work for the past few months and helping NISOG bring language justice into this space. And I don't know if you all know how much work goes into something like this, but they have spent hours on this conference, and I see them working late nights and on short deadlines, interpreting and translating materials on the spot. Michelle, our spreadsheet master, putting all the stuff together. I'd be behind the scenes like freaking out, but y'all were there to support me. Wendelin's always telling me like, we're flowing. And that is always what I needed to hear. So I appreciate both of you so much. Just the last few months of planning, you both have put your whole selves into this work. And I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to thank Tracy and Malika, who, if you did not know, that's my mom. But y'all have just been my rocks, and we've had some support on this conference, but we are such a small team, and I have had such a pleasure working and laughing and growing with you ladies. And Nicole too, who is on our NISOG staff. Like I'm really enjoying the team I'm working with. So thank you all. And I'm gonna pass the mic.
Well, talking about rocks, Shia. Okay, Shia. Like, you just held this conference down. I'm so proud of you. You know, when we were, for most of the year, we were like talking about, are we going to be live? live? Are we going to be virtual? We didn't know. Then we were going to be both. We were going to do it all. And then we were like, okay, no, this is not going to work. We're going to go virtual. And so I don't know, and only a few of you kind of know, but I am going to be transitioning out of the role of conference manager. And so we had a lot of conversation about, okay, like, who are we going to who's going to transition into this position? And you know, Shia, you were the obvious choice. You just earlier, I was talking with my sister Noelle over here, and she brought up the analogy of that baby bird, right? And how it was just such a natural transition. And when it came time, you know, you left the nest, and I don't know if you knew that you could fly, but what beautiful wings you have, my daughter. And fly you did, and you carried all of us. And I'm just so grateful and so proud of you. And I said 500 times that I wasn't going to cry during this, but I'm just really grateful. You have spent tireless nights, you know, doing full-time, late nights, waking up at the crack of dawn to make sure that this can happen. And so, and happen it did, and happen it is. And it's been amazing. Like, I had no idea that being remote and being so far away from everyone, that we could be so connected. And so I'm just so grateful that we have together this beautiful team. We have been able to kind of like break that boundary of disconnect. So speaking of transitions, oh, Tracy Lehrman, Miss Tracy Lehrman, you amazing woman. You started off as a consultant for Nissan, moving up to the conference manager, then communications manager, and then ED for 4 years here. When I came into Nissan, there was an almost all white board, and I came in as the only BIPOC staff at the time. And you not only had the vision, but you had the drive to move Nissan from being a white-led org to a majority BIPOC board. And with our new ED transitioning in, who we don't know yet, we'll let y'all know, but we know that it's going to be a BIPOC person, and we're really excited. But we know, so with that, it will make our staff majority BIPOC. You know, we've gotten to the point where even outside organizations are contacting us because you have spearheaded and helped create this model of what it looks like to transition from a white-led org to what we have now, and which is so diverse and in so many ways. And we are just so thankful for your time here. And again, I said that I was not going to cry, but I'm a little teary. And it's okay. I'm not super sad because I know that we're going to continue working together when you come work for me at One Art. And so I'm really grateful, grateful for you, grateful for your vision, your drive, your inspiration. We've had so many laughs, and we've shared tears, and we've also shared profanity. And it's been such a joy, Tracy. We know that wherever you go, you're gonna just take it to the next level, and so grateful for your time here with us. Together with the board, the staff and the board, we came together, and we have some gifts for you. So I know I'm trying to like talk quickly, but not too quickly. I'm sorry, LJ team. Let me bring it down a little bit. But I'm trying to squeeze it in because Tracy gave us like 2 minutes, and I was like, okay, we have this big presentation. And okay, so the first gift is a self-care package from One Art, from our farm here at One Art. So you have honey, and you have the One Art tea, and you even have some Epsom salts, and Dead Sea salts and lavender, because we really want you to like just take care, you know, that self-care. You know, I'm always pushing the self-care. And so we, oh, and also some freshly harvested white sage for you. And the board and staff also came together to give you this. So up here we have a gift certificate to Boydston's for you and Leon. And your gift certificate will be arriving shortly. And oh, what's this down here? Let me see. Oh my, okay. We have a gift certificate for Zypher Float. So you can go and get a massage and maybe float and do some more self-care. But even more precious than these lovely gifts is the next pages of this card, which is a really thick card, because in this thick card are many love letters to you from your staff and from your board and from the board, the previous NISOG board. We've got all sorts of people and all sorts of letters that are up in here, and this will be coming to you shortly. So I'm going to pass it on, and sending you much love, Tracy. Passing it on, passing the mic.
Thank you so much. I'm a little in shock and a little thrown off of my agenda here. But all I'll say is that working with this team has been such a gift and an honor. And yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna feel when I officially do step away in 6 weeks. But it's hard to think of having a group of coworkers and colleagues and friends that I'd want to work with more. So thank you. And I know we're also supposed to give an appreciation to one more person before we turn it over to our plenary speakers. So I want to invite Lindsay and Sis Anna to join me, and Karen. So I will let Sis Anna and Lindsay kick it off as we give some appreciation to Karen, who will be stepping off the board at the end of the year.
Well, that is definitely a hard act to follow. But I have to echo that, Tracy, it's been a joy working with you in these my short time. Your graciousness, your thoughtfulness, and your care has really moved me, and your drive and desire to see this change with NISOG has been very inspiring. I know in our organization it's been inspiring to see it. So rock on with your bad self. Great job. And this is not goodbye. So
No way, that's not goodbye.
yeah, I got to come visit you. Well, we're going to take this time now to honor one of our very constant and hardworking board members, Karen Spiller. She is rotating off of NISOG's board, and we just want to take this time to celebrate her work, celebrate what she's done, what she's meant to us all. I'm going to start this off and then pass it over to my colleague, Lindsay. But very briefly, I know Karen from some other venues, and she has always been a steadfast, constant force within NISOG. And as I mentioned, I know and work with Karen in other areas, and she has always been graceful in her delivery, kind and thoughtful. As a new NISOG board member, she has been very supportive and provided much needed advice to me and to the other new members. Personally, she has always encouraged me in my work with Food Solutions New England. That's one of the other orbits that we're in. And I really will miss her on the NISOG board. I only hope and pray that I can model her graciousness and her consistency. Godspeed, Karen, and we will see each other very soon. So I'll turn it over to my colleague here, Lindsay, because she has some wonderful words for you as well.
Mama Karen. Yeah, ever since Malika started calling you that, I think of you as Mama Karen because that is your soul. And I feel so blessed. I'm going to cry. I know. I was crying all through Tracy's love tribute. Thank you, Malika. Tracy, you've got to believe it, girl. You have done amazing stuff while you've been at NISOG, and I know you're just going to do even more amazing stuff when you leave. Okay, so sorry, back to Karen. I'm all over the place. I'm sorry, LJ team. Yeah, I have been blessed to serve with Karen on the NISOG board for the past 6 years, the whole time I've been on the board. I am so lucky that I can have you as a beloved friend and co-conspirator, Karen. You have always inspired me with your insight and your really deep concern and compassion and love for humans with all of our foibles and all of our craziness. You bring a really deeply thoughtful approach to your service to the board and to everything that you do, and especially to those complex and tricky interactions between board and staff that always come up because we're humans. And of course, woven through all this is your profound commitment to our shared liberation, which has really helped me as a white woman in this space. And to us deepening our analysis of racial justice and food justice. I have learned so much from you. So thank you, dear one, for all your hard work and shared wisdom over these years. I know you will stay involved in NISOG, but we are really going to miss you.
I am
Wait, Karen, I still
humbled.
have something to say about you.
Oh.
Not over yet, Karen.
Okay.
I am a much better thank youer than receiving thanks. So I'm glad to be saying these words to you right now. I've known you for 7 years, and I feel like we've really gotten to go to some deep places in our relationship. And there's so much that I appreciate about you, but the thing I want to really let you know that I appreciate the most is how deliberate, thoughtful, and present you are. Whether you're sending me a text with your signature butterflies for Mother's Day, or my favorite, when you send me a text on Jewish holidays, or when you come to my house with an orchid or a bulb to plant in the garden. I see that you show up in your relationships with such deliberate care, and that deliberate care comes through in even small ways, like the pace of your speech or the little like greetings you put in your emails. I also see it when you remind me to slow down and breathe and practice letting go, which I'm going to do right now. I know we're not saying goodbye to you because I can't imagine either one of us not being in NISOG, but I just wanted you to know that your way of being in this world is such a valuable lesson that I'm still learning, and one that I'm so, so grateful you've taught me. And now you go.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm full. I'm full right now. And, when we were talking earlier, I was one of those people of color when we were mostly majority white. And the transformation that we have made, and we've made together intentionally, with love, with care, I am, again, humbled by having been able to be on that journey with us, transforming our spirits, our hearts, our mindsets, and then being a model for those around to see what it looks like. It's just not an aspiration, but it can be done. Tracy, growing with you, we've been growing together in the last 7 years. And as NISOG has been growing in spirit, growing in commitment, growing in acts of belonging and nurturing and creating something different. This is a something different. I was talking about the something different. This is the something different where we are right now. This conference was the something different. The coming together of the voices and the spirits and the cultures and the lived lives is something different. So this moment in time, I'm gonna hold on to it and know that I am not going away. I'm just in a different role, but always heart is there. And thank you so much for the kind words. Again, it's beyond words that I say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did have a whole speech here. Just gonna toss that out because we don't have time for it. We have 3 amazing plenary speakers that I want to give the rest of this time to. And I also know that there's a lot of people here that know Karen Spiller, and please share any love you have for her in the chat. She is a very hardworking, dedicated person, and has given so much to NISOG. And without further ado, I'm going to find and pin our 3 plenary speakers, Gabby, Jose, and Eustacio, who are going to bring us to this next part of the program, this next and final part of the program. And I thank you all for joining us. And I think I have one more person to pin. So, but Gabby, you can go ahead and get started.
Gracias, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm not part of the NISOG team, and I'm here crying nonetheless. I have the honor of working with Karen in various projects. I've worked with the NISOG team this year, and I feel very honored to be here today along with my colleagues, because it's not common, in agricultural and food systems that we have, that there's the space for love, for care, for gratitude, for the wonderful emotions that we can find in this work and purpose with one another. To you, my respect, my gratitude, and my strength to continue working on this future where NISAG is not the exception, but that it be the norm. And with that, I give thanks to the NISAG team, and I would like to invite Eustacio and Jose as well. I'm not sure if we can. Jose, can you test your audio real quick? You're on mute. Hello, good afternoon, compas. What a pleasure to be here. Likewise, I feel grateful and honored to be able to share with you guys in this space a little bit of the story that I have in this country and my relation of what is here for me. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jose. We're gonna give the mic really quickly to Eustacio just to say hello, and then we can start getting the conversation rolling. Eustacio, how you doing? Hello, good afternoon to all. I'm doing well, ready for this presentation, and yeah, excited. Perfect. Well, welcome to all. You know, we have the honor, Jose, Eustacio, and I, to close out this beautiful conference. A little bit about myself. My name is Gaby Pereira. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, an aunt, and I come from Yala. That's the way that we know the southern part of this continent. My people come from the Charruas and Manteños and Germans and Portuguese. In my blood runs, you know, in my blood, we have the experience of being in multiple countries, existing in multiple languages and multiple cultures. And with that gift, with that way of understanding life, is that I've understood this work. Why are we doing this work and this conversation? Not just because we have a language justice team that's incredible, that's supporting us and helping us overcome those different boundaries that exist in our communication, but also we're seeing how we can use our language, and Spanish in particular, as a tool, even if it's been a colonizer language that's been put on many of our cultures. We're talking about, you know, from 1,500 languages, only one, Spanish, is the one that's the official language in more than 21 countries. And I want to clarify something here. What's the difference between a dominant language and one of many different languages in Venezuela? It's one of 31 of languages. Officially, by law, they speak Spanish. And the United States does not have an official language. It has a dominant language, which is English. 70% of the population in the United States has as a principal language English, and that's why we say that it's the dominant language. But up until today, there's not a law that institutionalizes English as the official language of the United States. And if we bring that to our bubble inside of the agricultural systems, we know from 1965 through the Bracero program, there's been this process of bringing people from Spanish-speaking communities from Mexico to the United States. In 1945, we had 45,000 people who spoke Spanish as native language. Today, in 2021,
4 años después,
we talk about 60, 64 years later, we have more than 2.2 million people who are working in our agricultural system and speak, express themselves, feel in Spanish. And so it's not a coincidence to say
es el lenguaje
that
de la
Spanish is the language of the agriculture system here in the United States, even though it's not the official language in which decisions are made in agricultural systems. It's not the language that's used to promote, to generate opportunities, or to give to all the
en
people
el campo.
involved in the fields, from the moments that they plant the seed, when they take care of it, cultivate it, harvest it, and bring it to our tables. That whole cycle, that whole process is generally done in Spanish. But folks, even ourselves, never have the ability to be able to communicate in a reciprocal way with the rest of the world. And for that reason, we know that when we use systems of exclusion, when we use languages as an excuse, we are losing understanding and consciousness. We are losing the opportunity to learn from the people who are every day out in the fields. We're losing those opportunities to learn ancestral systems that are beyond any border. And so I invite you guys to think about, what is your role inside language justice? And it's not about learning a second or third language. It's seeing how we can construct bridges of communication and expression in all the people who are in our system, because we all need to hear one another. And for that reason, today we are talking in Spanish, and we're talking Spanish to experts, agricultural experts. Why is Jose and Eustacio here? Because Jose and Eustacio are part of the Agricultural Council of Farsan. As Shia mentioned before, this is a network, an assistance network for the Advisory Council in Agriculture. I'm sorry if I wasn't really able to translate it correctly into Spanish. We know we have Jack here, who is a director of the program, who can share a little bit more over that. Farsand is a project that I can explain is like a network of networks, different organizations, different people, different agricultural workers in the Northeast are working together in being able to negotiate the different stresses and stressors that workers experience. And so that stress is 4 times greater than those who are working in other sectors outside of agriculture. Many of us for many years have focused on learning more about production, on bettering the systems of production, but we've forgotten and lost sight of what our people are doing, and that our people need a balance between learning about production, about learning how to manage stress, and learning how to really utilize communication and spirit inside of these systems. And for that reason, I have the honor of having Jose and Eustacio, who have always given us incredible counsel inside of Farsan, how to better ourselves and the work. Jose, would you be able to talk a little bit more about yourself, how you got here? the Jose that came from central Mexico to the Jose that is sitting in Massachusetts with some cold.
Gaby. Bueno,
Hello, Jose speaking. Thank you, Gabby. Well, my story is very long, so I'm going to try to be brief and really highlight the most interesting points. As Gabby was saying, I come from the center of Mexico, like an hour and a half from the capital. It's a really small state, but it has 4 different kinds of microclimates. It's really versatile. It's really small, but by coincidence, by destiny, or however each of us wants to call it, that little town where I come from was or is the place where the General Emiliano Zapata was born, the freer of the north, of the south. And by coincidence also, he was fighting for similar things that we are fighting for today. It's interesting to highlight that during that time, certain white people who were the ones that were the owners of the land and the people of color were the ones who had to work without any type of rights, some even without any pay, right? So that is the place where I come from. I left there when I was 20 years old. Now I am 37 years old. I'm a couple of years away of having lived exactly half of my life in the United States and half of my life in Mexico. And well, after a year of being here in the United States, I started working in the tobacco industry out on the fields. And I was lucky and I had the experience of living during those years. It was an inhumane treatment that people got in these companies. It was all based on fear, on yells, on people pushing you, hurrying you to do it faster. And it was a big challenge, definitely. Now that I am remembering it and that I am telling the story of it to you, it was a challenge. But thanks to that, I was able to meet a lot of people. I do have a beautiful experience of the first day I worked there. I got there without food, without lunch. But even then, I stayed at work because I needed to work. So I remember that I sat in a corner during lunchtime and like 6 compañeros came to me and said, come to us, come sit with us. He said, and I said, I don't have anything to eat. And they said, no, take from our food. So I had some beautiful experiences and I was able to understand that regularly people came from Guatemala and from Chiapas, but in a certain sense, they would bring their traditions from their original countries, their origin countries, and that would be to share food. Definitely. And so after around 15 years, without interruption, I worked for one company in agriculture. Then I kept working in companies that grew organic vegetables. And well, until one day I met a nonprofit organization, which is the Pioneer Valley Workers Center. They were giving talks, invitations to their meetings. And it was very interesting to me because I had never known that there were people doing this work. And thanks to that, I was able to open my eyes and realize all of the terrible conditions that we were undergoing, because thanks to the opportunity I had to learn a little bit of English, they would use me to translate with other people who did not know any English. So I would find out directly of all of the problems, all of the mistreatment that Hispanic people and people who didn't speak English underwent. It was really completely different when I spoke English. And so thanks to that, I started to talk with my coworkers about these injustices, ask them what they thought. And after that, I started to do that, I was fired. I was fired. The boss punished me for that, but I kept going with this organization, Pioneer Valley, and from then my life has changed so much. Definitely. It is wonderful to be able to have connections with people who struggle and fight for the same things and have the same values. I think that that would be a good summary. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Jose. We're going to keep talking. Family, this is a conversation as if we were in the living room of our home, drinking some tea, a little coffee, a little hot chocolate. So if you want to ask us questions in the chat, please go ahead. And we go on. Estacio, can you tell us a little bit about who was the Eustacio who decided to come here? What is the story of the Eustacio who decided to come here, and the story of the Eustacio who's here sitting with us today? Hi, good afternoon. My name is Eustacio. I'm from Mexico, from the state of Veracruz. To get to this country, it was something that was, what can I say? I was lucky. I was lucky. I do appreciate it a lot because one of my friends invited me to come to the country, to the United States, and we got here to this country in good conditions, but when I got here, really the language was all in English, and one didn't know any English. And so I still remember my first job. It was working in the tomato fields, and I picked only one bin of tomatoes, me and my friend together, only one bin of tomatoes in one day. And the guy who hired us, who spoke English, and the crew leader, spoke Spanish, so that helped us. But throughout that time, well, I got here at 19 years old, and I've worked in agriculture for 17 years. I've worked in agriculture. I've also worked in restaurants, in different places. But what I liked the most was agriculture. So that was a little bit of my past. Now, the Eustacio who I've learned how to value the land. I have learned about laws and about how to take care of ourselves as agricultural workers. I'm studying also. I'm studying English, and I've been getting better at it. And compared to the Eustacio from the past, everything has changed, because before I didn't, like my compañero Jose said before, there were so many injustices, and one would just stay quiet about it. We couldn't raise our voices, say anything about it, because we would get punished for it. We would get fired. They could hurt us. And since we were new in this country, we didn't have any way to defend ourselves in that time. Now everything has changed. It has been different. Also because little by little, I'm being granted opportunities to keep learning about what is the justice, what are the laws. And that's the most important thing in my life that I've learned, that I am learning to keep moving forward. Thank you, Eustacio.
Hace 2 años tuve la
2
oportunidad
years ago, I had the opportunity to learn from Jose how to harvest tomatoes. What took me 2 hours to harvest took 20 minutes for Jose. Same thing happened with Eustacio. He made this raised bed for strawberries in less than half an hour, and I had to do it in like 3 hours. So much respect for what you do, for what you know, and for the ways that you teach those of us who want to learn from you. We're going to talk a bit about injustices later, but right now, what I want to focus on is what you shared about. Jose, you have 15 years of experience. Eustacio, you have 17 years of experience. With all of these years of experience for both of you, what is the value of agriculture for you today? And let's start with Eustacio this time. Well, I've learned to be a responsible person, to be a humble person, to have self-confidence, to comply with the tasks I'm assigned. I also consider agriculture to be taking care of a seed, the care for a seed, because we plant it, it will grow and grow. And whether it's flowers, vegetables, fruits, it's all about a process in which growers put dedication, love, dedication to move the work forward. And also to have a good harvest, to have good fruits, one puts so much love onto the land. That is what, well, for me, I put a lot of effort in what I'm taught and to moving forward. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Sorry, Eustacio, for sharing that knowledge that is so beautiful. The value of taking the seed to the seed, to seed it, to cultivate it and take care of it, to harvest it, to protect it, to then seeding it again, planting it once more. Jose, after more than 15 years working for us so that we have food on our tables, what is the value of agriculture for you? Thank you, Gabi. Jose speaking. Well, that's a pretty extensive question, but anyway, for me, the value of agriculture right now for me is that it's the base of everything. For being physically healthy, mentally healthy, we are living in times in which we're being accustomed to eat, what these big companies want to give us. The people who work in agriculture can't eat the healthy vegetables that they themselves are cultivating. They have to eat the worst things. So I think that the value of agriculture, we're still living in times in which there's discrimination, where people talk badly about people who work in agriculture, in the sense that they want to make it seem like it's not dignified work. That's what I've seen in the time that I have worked. And that's why so many of the children of growers want to be anything other than a grower and a person in agriculture, a farmer. And they really, their love for agriculture is killed. So I think right now that if all of us got involved little by little in agriculture, it would make us better people, because agriculture heals. Agriculture heals, definitely. To be able to see a seed be planted, to see it growing, and then feed yourself from a vegetable that what went into it, the love that it has. I think that agriculture definitely is worth more than what we are led to believe. I would say that agriculture is love. There are people who have gotten to the farm and have never had the chance to participate in agriculture. And you see a love be born in them. It's hard to describe the happiness that they communicate to us, the grateful they are after having been able to accompany us in this adventure, right? Yeah, definitely.
Por compartir
Jose, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
esa hermosa frase que nos dijiste. La agricultura
That beautiful phrase that you used. Agriculture is love. Agriculture is the way we care for community. It's the knowing that we can protect the land, the water, the seeds, and cultivate our communities in a dignified way. I myself, I don't know about y'all, the folks who are listening in, but I want to continue just giving you guys gratitude for that essential work that y'all do, not just with your effort you are feeding us, but with that love that y'all do it with. Because I think that that energy, goes from the moment you put that seed in the soil to the moment we sit down to eat. And for that reason, y'all are leaders. Y'all are leaders, and your counsel is important. Your advice is important for people like myself who work with agricultural workers to see how we can improve this system. And so before speaking a little bit about that, I would like to revisit that point that you guys mentioned. You mentioned at the beginning that at the beginning of your career, y'all there was a lot of poor treatment, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, working conditions that were far from appropriate or dignified, lack of um, medical support, and beyond the issues that are happening in the field. Then we return home, and when you return home and are ready to eat your dinner, you don't have access to good and healthy food. And that's reflected in the statistics that we have from different reports. From 3 million, approximately 3 million agricultural workers. In 2019, they reported figures that around 1 million, they got some surveys to about 1 million people, and they indicated that dietary diseases like diabetes, hypertension, nutrition issues, and malnutrition are the principal pathologies in agricultural workers. And the same amount of people that reported those issues also reported issues with stress, anxiety, problems with mental health. When y'all talk, I feel the love, and you express love and care and this inspiration to continue moving forward. During all of these years, what's been the role with mental health in your work? Jose, I'd like to begin with you. Yes. Well, the role of mental health or the experience of mental health, in my experience, it's it's touched me, and I've seen that mental health is definitely affects, not just being able to get along with your coworkers and colleagues, but to work in a good and happy way. It directly affects also your physical health. I've seen different compas, different colleagues that the doctor simply says to them, "Oh, you have stress. You have, you're stressed out." And from there, it's like a dead end. It's like, where do I go? Okay, I'm stressed out, but what do I do? And some folks are like, oh, I don't even believe in that. And then maintaining the level of work, 70, 75 hours a week to have a salary that will actually allow us to live is definitely, it's the most common cause uh, where we aren't able to live in our well-being in healthy ways. And also the fear that they put in us saying, well, you're not going to have this job if you don't produce X amount, and not giving priority to our different medical needs and different medical appointments. It's common, and there's a lot of stress that we experience out in those fields, and that's just a few examples. Yeah, thank you for that, Jose. Eustacio, same question for you. What's the role, what's the experience of mental health as an agricultural worker? Yeah, well, mental health for me is like it's like, we have positive emotions and we have negative emotions when we also have to, when we don't have to lose sight of the ways we take care of ourselves and our personal hygiene, you know, and just mental hygiene, like good routines, taking care of ourselves, but also breaks in our workday, and also finding that equilibrium, that balance, because sometimes we feel like we wake up one day and then we feel good, and then other days we don't. But sometimes it's like there's a crash or dissonance of like, oh, I didn't mean to say that to my colleague, or I'm having issues with this person, and that affects us all. But it all affects us differently because we're all different and we come from different experiences. And sometimes we want to like cheer somebody up, but then we don't know how folks are feeling or how to like get close to them. And that's also part of my experience and what I see commonly in the work. And also, having that care around nutrition is real, because that also affects our health. As the compa Jose mentioned, you know, we would want to continue working, but the reality is that we have to be reminded and invited to take care of our health and prioritize our health. Going to the doctor every once in a while, taking care of ourselves, because as an agricultural worker, as a worker, we have to take, the same way we take care of the soil, we have to take care of ourselves, because we are, to continue doing this work, we have to give, yeah, the way we give that love to the soil, to the land, we have to do that with self-love and find that balance between the two to really be able to have a hold of our mental health, because it's real that, it affects us. It affects us. We can say, no, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. But the reality is that sometimes we're not good. We go through really difficult situations on a personal level, but also in work.
Gracias, José. Gracias.
Mm, thank you, Jose. Thank you, Eustacio. Y'all named these working conditions,
Familiares, las condiciones
the situations in our
de cuidado
families,
personal, de salud, de
that
higiene, de
self-care,
todo esto.
you mentioned hygiene,
Quería preguntar
health,
o,
well-being. I would like to ask y'all,
perdón, o ver un poquito,
I'm
o
sorry,
explorar un poquito más allá cómo,
I'd like to explore a little bit.
cómo ustedes perciben desde las diferencias
How do y'all
culturales
perceive the
que
different
estas
cultural
cosas afectan más
experiences and
o afectan
reality,
menos?
and the
Yo
different
también soy
ways that mediates the way that we feel these impact more or less? I am also an
que
immigrant,
aprendí a
and one
decir
of the
en
first
otro
things
idioma,
that I learned to
me duele,
say in another
no
language
porque me doliera la
was my
barriga,
stomach hurts. Not because my stomach hurt,
conmigo,
but being able to
me
say
daba la
that something was not
herramienta
okay in me gave me
de
the
cabeza, si
tool to signal if it
el
was my head
que
or my leg. But being able to
tenía las
express that
primeras
I had
cosas que
physical
tuve que
pain
aprender a
was
decir.
one of the first things I had to learn to say. The manner in which we heal, the
Llevamos los temas
ways
de salud
in
mental
which
en nuestras,
we,
en nuestras
bring
culturas, en nuestros
forward
pueblos.
these
A veces
conversations about mental health in our countries, in our cultures, in our communities is sometimes different than here. How have y'all as agricultural workers, as immigrants,
en eso. El
How do
estar
you guys
ahí,
manage that?
pero no
Being here, but not being
estar
from
allá,
here. Being
sin
there
estar
or
aquí.
being from
No sé si me
there
explico.
while no longer being there. I don't know if I'm making sense to y'all.
José, ¿te gustaría empezar?
Sí,
Jose, would you like to begin?
bueno,
Yes.
cada
Well, I think that every person,
pues dependiendo la
well,
situación actual que esté
depending on their situation, you know, their lived experience, it's going to be different. Personally, it's been a little bit more challenging and more difficult for me because I don't have family. I don't have blood family in this area. So I've always been here alone without family. And I think that I have learned, or I've always had to surround myself with people who have experience, you know, elders who are able to share. I was blessed and born with this gift to listen to people. I love to listen to people and to really listen to their counsel, you know, which sometimes involves asking direct questions. And luckily, I've had a lot of friendships that have been key, you know, in a lot of different circumstances. Definitely, as Gabby mentioned, the language, you know, especially when I didn't know a single word in English, it was a frustration. It was a terrible frustration because I wasn't even able to fully understand my tasks at work. And nobody wanted to translate anything. People didn't want to indicate what was the task at hand. But there, you know, and so that invited me to find inner strength. And definitely, I think the key for me has been asking the folks who have had more experience, and that's from various nationalities, and that's been a blessing, you know, and that's where I've gotten the best counsel.
Eustacio, ¿cómo
Eustacio, how have you
ser
managed
aquí, ser de
being
aquí,
here,
ser
being
de
from
allá?
there, being from there, and being here? Yeah, yeah, I can speak from my own experience. I also do not have any family in this country, but I think that I have that blessing that I'm friendly, you know, I'm a good friend. I'm a happy person. I am I'm very I like to talk. I'm chatty and you know, I've learned to manage that as well. And I can say that I have my heart in Mexico and my body here in this country. And at the same time, before when there wasn't technology, you know, now with technology where we can see each other on screen, before it was different because we would talk on, you know, public phones, pay phones, and you'd have to watch the time. But now I can see them and things have changed. And that's a connection for me that that's also helped me because I've been able to see my family members. And that for me has changed my whole life, you know, here and there. I think that I'm here and I'm there, and I've learned to manage, you know, the different emotional aspects here and there.
Gracias, Eustacio. Les tengo una
Thank you,
última
Stasia. I have
pregunta
one more
y
question for
luego
y'all,
abrimos
and then we're gonna
la
open
sala.
up the space
Personas que nos
for other
escuchan,
people with questions.
una persona como yo, que
Someone like
trabaja
myself
o dice
that
que trabaja
works
para el
or
bienestar,
says that they work for your well-being.
una de las críticas más
One
grandes
of
de
the
mis
greatest critiques that I
compañeros que
present from,
nacieron
you know,
aquí
my
en este
colleagues,
país
especially
o no
those who are
tienen
born and
ningún tipo de
raised here in this
educación
country, who don't
en
have an understanding or perhaps an
relaciones
education
interculturales,
in multicultural spaces and
siempre
diverse
tratan de
settings,
resolver
that
todo
they always try to
con
resolve all the
una
problems
presentación en
with
PowerPoint
a
y
PowerPoint
decirte
presentation
cómo hacer
and
de
tell
eso.
you how to live your life.
Yo pienso
I
que
think
la mejor
personally
manera
that the
de
best way
aprender
to
es
learn
escuchar,
is to listen
escuchar desde el corazón.
and to listen from the
Yo
heart.
a ustedes dos los respeto
From both of you, I respect y'all enormously, like
en mi vida
incredibly.
profesional me
In
ha
my
hecho
professional
mejor
life, I am a
persona.
better person.
Así que con
being in relation with y'all. And so with all the humility in the world, I ask both of y'all, what's the best advice that you guys have that you would give me or to my colleagues in knowing how to work with you all and support you all from a place of respect, trust, from a place of reciprocity?
A ver, Tony, Eustacio, perdón.
All right, let's see. Eustacio. Yeah. The suggestion I would have is to, the bosses or the leaders to have more opportunities to to their workers to have opportunities to learn, and also that they should value the people that they have working, because that's the motor. The workers are like the motor to be out and cultivating and harvesting, and also a to have good mental health, and to give folks the opportunity to have, a day to rest, a paid day off, to really also value the soil and the land, and to also have them be open to teaching, and for them and their kids to learn, also to really learn what is agriculture, and for them to learn and value this work, you know, and putting the seeds in the soil and doing that agricultural work so we can continue to cultivate that agricultural work. Because the reality is that in this country, sometimes there's people that don't like agriculture, but agriculture is like the most beautiful thing that exists. Folks ask me all the time, how do you cultivate tomatoes? Or how do you cultivate, this vegetable? And we explain, oh, this process is this way or that way. And, my advice is also that we're able to teach the community, this work, and that we can open up, that spirit and that love for the land and agriculture, so that we can all continue moving together, agriculture forward. Because personally, it's beautiful, because we're connected with, the earth, with nature, and that's beyond anything that we can put a particular value on. And, that's something, a value we can share with everyone. Thank you, Estacio. I'll be able to saying Tony, not because I'm mispronouncing his name, it's because I've known them for years, and the same way that he calls me Gabby, I call him Tony.
¿Cuál es el consejo que
Jose,
le darías a gente
what
como
is the advice that you would give to people like me who say that work on your behalf or with you? What is the best way that we can serve you and support you with respect, with reciprocity, and considering all of the experience and knowledge that you have?
Gracias, Gaby. Habla José. Bueno.
Thank you, Gabby. Jose speaking here. Well, one of the things that comes to mind would be maybe to go into experience, right? So if you have the opportunity to, select a theme and maybe directly visit something that related to what you're talking about. Like if you permit people to really experience directly, and that way see different perspectives, because sometimes what one person sees is not what another person sees. Sometimes we have 5, 6 different ways of seeing things, understanding things. So we have to lose the fear. We have to lose the fear of getting to know people. There are wonderful people in this country. Sometimes they put fear in us in all of the social media so that we don't get to know other people. But I think that's one of the things that I've seen is people who don't want to speak to other people because of fear. And then they end up falling in love with those people, because you realize that when you have a multicultural community, it is such a blessing. I would recommend to you to give yourself the time to get to know people in a deeper way, to have direct experiences with people. If you have the opportunity to really go inside. And I would recommend that. I think one of the things that I like about this country is that you can always get to know a person that has a culture, comes from a culture that you don't yet know. Thank you. Thank you, Jose. I'm really hearing that, like, Gabi, make less PowerPoint presentations and organize more parties. Or like organize more social events, like let's really talk heart to heart, not talk through a PowerPoint presentation. So with this, I'm going to close out my questions, but I'd like to give the opportunity at everybody who's listening to us to give us questions and ask questions of our two experts here today. Lindsay Gilmore, you have your hand raised for a while now. Do you want to ask a question?
Se arrepintió.
Oh, she took it back. So in the chat, where Elizabeth Hurdenson is saying that, Eustacio, that you spoke so beautifully about how beautiful it is to plant seeds and grow food as a movement. And I imagine that it's about the farm worker movement, and that we need to transform the farm work into a vocation that is valued and remunerated with decent benefits and living wages, and to give you, the people who grow our food, those benefits that you deserve. So I don't really see questions in the chat. I just see so much love directed at you two. But Leslie, thank you. Leslie says, thank you for sharing such important work. Karen says, thanks to everybody for sharing. We have to really come further for workers' rights, for all workers, no matter what is your migration status or in what industry you work. The best tool for exploitation is the unequal treatment of our laws. So what is your opinion about that? Like the fact that we as immigrants don't have the same rights as other people, and that you in particular, are essential in the systems of this country. What do you think about policy support for you all? Jose speaking. Well, definitely it's a raw and hard reality, but it is a reality that it's not just that it depends on where you are from, but also it depends like how much English do you speak? How much English don't you speak? What city are you living in? Definitely the application of laws and policies, it's not being done correctly, because there's still so many people who suffer in all kinds of ways. It would seem that we are in 2021 and these things wouldn't happen, but the truth is that we're really far from having a real practice and implementation of laws. Yeah, well, like my compañero Jose said, for me, now is the moment. We're workers, we are people. It is time for our voices to be heard, and not for us to just keep them stored away and quiet. Because in the 17 years that I've worked, I have held in so much. And there comes a moment where we say, you know what? We need to support people in agriculture, because this is very, very hard work. It is very valuable. And we do it with so much love and so much dedication, but you know, justice and these things, you know, it's like sometimes we can't get into it so much because of fear, but it is time for us to be heard and for our voices, not just my voice, but all of the voices are heard so that they know that we also should be valued and that we're doing our work.
Gracias, Tony. Gracias, Eustacio. Gracias, José.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Eustacio. Thank you, Jose.
Elizabeth pregunta para todo el mundo.
Elizabeth is asking,
Como país, ¿cómo podemos reconocer
as
el
a
valor?
country, how can we recognize the value of our agricultural workers? What are the changes practically and in the law that we can start acting upon? I'm going to reframe that question. So, knowing what you know today with all of your experience, what advice would you give the Estacio of 17 years ago, the Jose of 15 years ago, you know, when you started? What would be the changes in practices that you have learned and that you would turn into advice to that Eustacio and that Jose of the past who arrived to this country those years ago? Well, oh, Eustacio speaking here, sorry. First thing would be to have patience, to be dedicated, to be able to start having a good yield, a good harvest, and also to listen to people who have more experience, so one can keep learning from them. Yeah.
Gracias, Eustacio. José.
Thank you, Eustacio. Jose.
Bueno, yo definitivamente el consejo que le daría
Well, definitely the advice that I would give the Jose from the
que
past
no
would be
permitiera malos tratos, ¿no? De parte
to
del patrón,
not
que no permitiera
to not
que
allow
me di
bosses
cuenta
to
que
treat me
este
badly,
país es enorme,
to
hay
realize
mucho,
that
¿verdad?
this country is huge and there's
Que
actually a
nadie tiene
lot of
derecho a
work to be
tratarte
had, and
y
nobody
tener
has the right to treat
un
you
ambiente de
poorly.
trabajo
Nobody has the right to create a
yo le
toxic
diría
workspace.
que
So
siga
I would tell
buscando un trabajo
him
en el
to
que se
keep
sienta feliz
looking for a
y
job that makes you
eso es
happy,
lo que yo le
that
diría.
makes you calm. That's what I would tell him.
Gracias, José. Y eso,
Thank you,
con eso
Jose.
podemos hacer
With
la
that,
primera
actually, we
pregunta
can
que Liz Sierra nos
connect
está haciendo
to
ustedes dos.
the question that Liz
¿Cuál
Sierra
es
has
su
posed
más
for you
grande
two.
sueño para
What
ustedes
is
y
your
sus
biggest
comunidades
dream
de
for
personas que
you
trabajan con
and
la
for your
tierra?
communities of people who work with the land?
José, ¿quieres empezar?
Jose, do you want to
Gran
start with that?
sueño
What
para
is your
ti y para
biggest
tu
dream
comunidad
for
y las
you
personas que trabajan
and
con la
for
tierra?
the communities that work with the land?
Bueno,
Oh,
yo
okay.
mismo,
Well,
a mí me gustaría un día
right now, I would
poder
love to
ver
one day
que en las escuelas se implementan programas para
see
enseñarles a los
in
niños
schools, in education, that there are
cómo cuidar
programs
sobre
that
los
teach
vegetales.
kids
Aquí se
how
plantan,
to
como hacían conmigo
grow
cuando yo estaba en la
vegetables,
escuela, ¿verdad?
like they did with me when I was in school.
Me encantaría ver
I would love to
que
see
puedan sembrar desde la niñez
kids,
ese
you know,
amor
seeding and
por el
planting
campo,
from
me
when they're
encantaría
kids, and
ver
to see that
a
love and
los
to not let
trabajadores
it
del
go
campo
to waste
que
or go
puedan tener
away.
un
I'd love to
salario digno que
see
les permita
agricultural workers
mantener
having a
a sus familias,
dignified
¿verdad?
salary
Tener
and
una
time to
calidad
spend with their families
porque
so that they
muchas
can have
veces
quality lives. A lot of the
simplemente se trabaja desde
time,
que amanece hasta que
you
anochece
just work
y
from
si se
dawn
sale
to
un poco
dusk.
temprano, pues
And if you
en realidad
leave
no
a
tienes
little bit
tiempo para
early,
jugar con los
really
niños,
you don't even
para
have the
estar tiempo
energy
con
to
la
play with
familia.
your kids, spend
Entonces
time
a mí
with
me
your
gustaría ver
family.
que un
So I would like
agricultor
to see
pueda
an
decir,
agricultural worker
voy a
being
salir
able
este
to
fin de
say,
semana
I'm going to go to the
voy a ir
beach
al
this
parque con
weekend.
mi hijo.
I'm going to go
Me
to the park with
gustaría
my
ver,
kid.
ese sería mi sueño,
That would be my
que la
dream,
comunidad agricultora
that
pueda
the
tener una
agricultural
vida de calidad.
community can have a quality life.
Ujú.
Mm.
Sí, 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 mil veces a eso.
1,000 times yes to
Eustacio, ¿cuál
that.
es tu sueño?
Eustacio, what is your dream? Well, my dream is also to work with kids, with youth, also with people who don't know how to grow their vegetables. I'd love that. That would be a dream for me, to work with youth and kids. Another one of my dreams would be that agricultural workers are able to lose that fear, get rid of that fear, so that their voices are heard. Also, that they have a just salary and pay, that they have vacation days, rest days. It's so many dreams that I have, but that would be the most important thing. And also that growers are able to take care of their health and to move forward, and yeah, and to lose fear. That's really the most important thing. Lose the fear. Thank you. Elizabeth, I think that the answers that Eustacio gave already answer your question, which was, what is the advice that you have for NISOG as a social justice movement? Maybe organizing ourselves in promoting educational programs for youth in schools with people who can teach them. Maybe people who share their culture, who share their language, who share, a similar relationship to the ancestral community from which they come. Maybe also promoting workplaces that are dignified, where laws are followed independently of your immigration status. Also promoting the leadership, like Tony was saying, for people to lose the fear. For me, that sounds like making leaders, like promoting, empowering leaders, and helping those people out on the field to be leaders. And leaders in whatever way they define leadership, not like we understand what it is to be a manager at a farm. So I don't really have more questions, and I don't really see more questions from the audience. But if nothing else comes up, I would like to pass the mic to Tracy.
Thank you so much, Gabby. Thank you so much, Jose and Eustacio, for sharing your stories with us and your hopes and your dreams. It's really knowing that you both want to work with children is something that it brings me joy to hear people who want to work with children, because it's something that I love to do, and I feel that it's something that always brings me unbridled happiness. And I hope that's something that you're both able to achieve in your life. And if there are any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But if there aren't any, I just want to thank everyone for joining us at this plenary this afternoon and for participating in this entire conference. We spent the first half hour of this plenary giving a lot of thanks. And so I want to let everyone go back to the rest of their evening and, have some off-screen time. But I hope you will join us next year. We will hopefully be physically in Rhode Island next year around the same time. We'll send the date out in our next email newsletter. And Shia just dropped a note in the chat that there will be a decompression and breathwork session led by Ambar. Ambar, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, at 5:05. So folks, invite you to join that. And thank you for giving us that offering, Ambar. And with that, I want to say good evening to everyone. And I'm hope to reconnect with you soon in this space or in other spaces. And I appreciate all the work you all do to make this food system more sustainable, just, humane, and equitable. And that's it.